as we've established, Kevin sees every little thing as a possible reason for someone to be the millionaire, except for the big thing of Kaleb following him around for 45 damn minutes. What's up, everybody? So I made it to episode 3 of $1 Million Secret, which was the last episode in these first batch of episodes from Netflix. It ended up being quite an entertaining episode because I was worried coming into this one after episode 2. I talked about in the review of episode 2 that losing Natalie was not my favorite thing because she was kind of our villain of the season, not afraid to push buttons and be an antagonist. But it still ended up being quite entertaining, I think, because of the strategy in this episode. We got to see a lot of strategy, especially from Kat. At the end of episode 2, we saw that Kat was figuring it out, that Kaleb was probably the millionaire, seeing as Kaleb had her and Umeko and Hunter do the whole hat thing, saying it was a secret agenda for him to get a double vote, but it was probably the millionaire agenda. So Kat, smart for putting that together, and even smart for what she did in this episode. Well, her idea was smart. The aftermath, she didn't see the twist coming. But Kat saw the strategy that she should protect Kaleb since she knows that Kaleb is the millionaire, because then they could keep themselves in the game. Kaleb would protect them too. By them, I mean her, Hunter, Umeko. She also talked to Hunter about this. There was an idea to throw Lauren T under the bus since there was already suspicion on her, thanks to Natalie in episode 2 because of the whole handstand thing. And Hunter was on board with it. It was the same thing with Umeko. She went to Umeko. They discussed that Kaleb is probably the millionaire and that they should keep him in the game because Kaleb was clearly protecting them, because all three of them were vulnerable in that last episode too when the kill shot was able to be used and Kaleb did not use it on them. The big problem for this four-person alliance is Kaleb's decision making throughout this entire episode. So the whole agenda for the millionaire in this episode was that Kaleb would have to basically follow Kevin around for at least, well, for 45 minutes total. He had to stay within 15 feet of Kevin for 45 minutes. Basically, like, he had to basically stalk Kevin. Seemed like he's listening to all of Kevin's conversations. It ended up being quite the clusterfuck for Kaleb. He also had the choice, though, of, he would get 3 votes, or he can give the money to someone else so he's not the millionaire anymore and someone else has to deal with all of this deception. I didn't agree with Kaleb's decision making in this episode, because if he has to go all out to have to follow Kevin and put all of this suspicion on himself, he ended up ticking off Kevin, because there did come a point when Kevin wanted to talk to Lauren T alone, and Kaleb would just not leave him alone because he was trying to complete his task. And to me, it should have become very obvious that Kaleb was the millionaire here, which is why I'm very confused about the vote in the end. Like, I get people like Kat and Umeko and Hunter were trying to protect Kaleb and weren't going to vote him out. But everyone else's decision making, I don't understand it. Maybe it is another editing problem with this show. We're not getting everyone's decision making. We're not even seeing the total number of votes, which is something I don't like either, because when that happens, it could be some pretty big production interference, and I never trust the production teams of this show. So that's always suspicious to me too. But I was entertained watching Kaleb try to basically stalk Kevin, and Kevin getting increasingly more annoyed and more frustrated because he couldn't have a private conversation because Kaleb kept following him around. And Kaleb did not have a good excuse whatsoever as to why he was doing that. Although he still almost managed to get away with it by throwing Melissa under the bus, because Kevin had this suspicion about Melissa, because in episode 2 she is the one that got the clue and she wasn't quite sure about the wording in the clue, if it was a straight arrow or straight as an arrow with the clue. And so, as we've established, Kevin sees every little thing as a possible reason for someone to be the millionaire, except for the big thing of Kaleb following him around for 45 damn minutes. Because Caleb's excuse to Kevin was, Melissa did this. Like, she asked me to do this to rattle you, Kevin. And Kevin bought that. Kevin, not the brightest game player. I think for someone who wants to look into everything, it took him way too long to feel like Kaleb might be the millionaire in this episode. He did eventually get there, but it took some time. It took for Melissa to finally get heated and go talk to Kevin about that and say that Kaleb was lying. She never told that to Kaleb. And then Caleb's excuse was that he just panicked and he was just suspicious of Kevin. The edit did not show us a good excuse for Caleb's not so good strategy with this whole agenda in this episode. So I go back and I'm like, why would Kaleb decide to give the money away if he was going to sink most of his trust in this game with this agenda? I don't know. It was not the best decision in my opinion. And not only is he like making that decision for his own game, he kind of screwed his allies too, because Kat was going so hard in this episode to protect Kaleb from everyone, and she got Hunter and Umeko on board to do the same for Kaleb, only for Kaleb to be successful with his agenda, which means the money was going to randomly go to someone else. So Kaleb really shit the bed in this episode, and I feel like it also strategically hurts Kat and Hunter and Umeko. They had a solid 4-person thing going, but now they no longer are going to know who the millionaire is. So I understand Kat's frustration in the end when she helped target Lauren T, who she knew was innocent. She got Hunter on board to do the same. Hunter did a lot of the talking at the dinner to try and save Kaleb and to try and further throw Lauren T under the bus. Before that, though, Kat even went so hard to be the one to get the clue so that she can try and protect Kaleb with that too. The clue being that the millionaire's name has an A in it, but she was able to make suspicion onto Lauren T that the letter was a T instead. So that didn't help Lauren T at all. So what we're seeing from these first few episodes is that if you are an early target, if there is suspicion on you early, I don't know if you can get out of that, because we saw what happened to Alti, who was the first millionaire. As soon as suspicion was on him, it seemed like he was toast. Natalie ruined her own game, couldn't get the heat off of her. In this episode, Lauren T couldn't get the heat off of her. If that stays the same way, it's not looking great for Kaleb, or it shouldn't look great for Kaleb. The only thing Kaleb might have going for him here is that at the end they all are told what the millionaire got to do by completing their agenda, and that there will be a new millionaire. I'm interested to see if not just Kat, but also Hunter and Umeko have lost trust in Kaleb with his decision making in this episode. That will tell me a lot about what kind of game players they're going to be. Are they actually going to be smart players? Like, Kat was smart in this episode, but it kind of screws her in the end, because as she said in the end, she now basically has to start over and try and figure things out again, and actually figure out who the millionaire is again, because it's going to be random. A couple more things though before we get to the new millionaire. I'm worried about Daisy's edit. I talked about in my first review for the first episode that I really thought Daisy was going to be the first boot, because I felt like in the first episode, what I've been talking about all along, we're not getting introduced to these players very well. But Daisy was someone that we were introduced to a lot. And in the first episode, the only two people that got a big edit besides Daisy, well, there was one more. Hunter actually got a big edit too. But obviously, Alti got a big edit because he was the millionaire. Natalie got a big edit because she had the first clue. But Daisy also had a pretty big edit in that first episode. And we are getting a lot of her point of view in the confessionals. And I don't like Daisy. I don't want to see Daisy win this game. She totally rubbed me wrong in episode 2 when her 50-year-old ass was acting like she wanted to get into a fight with Natalie. It was cringe. It made me roll my eyes. She's too much for me. But she is getting a really good edit, or at least we are getting to see a lot of her perspective, which we can't say for most of the cast. So I'm hoping I am looking too much into the editing, and maybe it's just more poor editing from this show in general. But Daisy might be a contender to win just with her edit alone. Now, the new millionaire is Nick, and we have established that he is very smart. He was the person that was able to snipe Alti, where I felt like him being able to catch on to the no cap clue was very astute from him. So I do want to see how he is able to move as millionaire. I don't know if I buy that all of these millionaires are chosen randomly, because we have yet to see a girl millionaire yet this season, and that makes me scratch my head. We are on our third guy in a row. But Nick, I guess, will at least be interesting because he has proven to be one of the smartest people in the house, and he might get this power if he is able to do the next agenda where he gets 2 kill shots, which seems like overkill for only 4 episodes into this season. And it should mean that he has the hardest agenda to do. This third one was probably the hardest agenda so far, having to follow Kevin. The fourth agenda should be even harder because of the big power that Nick could amass. But the preview for these next 3 episodes looked pretty good. Maybe even a showmance with Nick and Umeko, which seems out of nowhere, especially if Nick is the millionaire. I don't know how that's going to work out for Umeko, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. So even though I do have complaints with the editing, and I don't quite trust production with us not being able to see what the votes were with Lauren T in this episode and the supposed random draws to pick the millionaire. It's been an entertaining season so far, though, and I think the next 3 episodes dropping this coming week could be even better, or at least I hope they are.